It was the summer of 1971, and the bounds of psychological study were being pushed to the maximum. A basic passageway at Stanford University's basement has been turned into a temporary jail. The walls were stark, the cells were tiny, and the atmosphere was heavy with expectancy. What was about to happen will permanently alter our view of human nature. Dr. Philip Zimbardo, a psychology professor at Stanford, designed an experiment to investigate the consequences of perceived authority in a simulated jail setting. He recruited 24 male college students and randomly divided them into two groups, guards and convicts. They were average young men with no history of violence or mental illness who just paid $15 every day to engage in what they thought would be an interesting study. The shift was instantaneous. Guards wore military-style outfits, mirrored sunglasses, and brandished billy clubs. Prisoners were stripped of their personal identities, assigned numbers rather than names, and dressed in smocks. The subterranean hallway was their whole universe. The trial was scheduled to last 2 weeks. It barely made it through 6 days. The descent into chaos on the first day, the mood was tight but controlled. The guards were unclear of their responsibilities, and the detainees were cooperative, albeit a little bewildered. However, the illusion of authority quickly took hold. By the second day, the guards were asserting their power more aggressively. They awakened detainees in the middle of the night for head counts, enforced arbitrary regulations, and punished even the least infractions an uprising arose. Prisoners barricaded themselves in their cells, refusing to follow the officers' commands. The guards used fire extinguishers to disperse the opposition, stripped detainees nude, and placed the ringleaders in solitary confinement. The psychological toll was immediate. What began as a simple experiment rapidly turned into a nightmare. The breaking point prisoner 8612, one of the first to be captured, began to exhibit serious mental suffering. He yelled, cursed, and pleaded for release. Dr. Zimbardo and his colleagues originally disregarded his actions as an attempt to control the experiment. But as the hours passed by, it became evident that the psychological pressure was real. Prisoner 8612 was eventually released, but the harm was done. The distinction between reality and simulation had blurred beyond recognition. The guards' harshness increased. They forced inmates to scrub toilets with their bare hands, put them to demeaning jobs, and denied them basic human necessities like sleep and food. The captives, in turn, became more meek and subservient, accepting their destiny with despair. It was a disturbing display of how regular people might be pushed to acts of brutality and submission when given the correct circumstances. The intervention by the 6th day, the experiment had reached a critical stage. Christina Massler, a doctoral student and Zimbardo's girlfriend at the time, was called in to conduct the interviews. She was outraged by what she witnessed: dehumanization, misery, and ethical violations. She addressed Zimbardo, asking how he could allow such savagery to continue. It was a time of reckoning. Dr. Zimbardo chose to end the experiment prematurely due to the serious ethical breaches and psychological suffering caused. What was scheduled to last 2 weeks ended after only 6 days. The individuals were debriefed, and the underground passageway was demolished, but the psychological scars persisted. Aftermath and ethical implications. The aftermath of the Stanford Prison Experiment was characterized by considerable contemplation and examination. Many of the participants, both guards and convicts, were left reflecting on their acts and the roles they played. Some guards expressed regret, while others explained their actions as merely obeying orders. The convicts, many of whom had been traumatized, expressed concern about how rapidly they lost their sense of identity and agency. The experiment provoked extensive discussion regarding the ethics of psychological research. Critics chastised the research for its lack of control and the psychological harm caused to the subjects. The American Psychological Association, APA, enacted stronger ethical criteria to prevent similar trials from happening again. Informed consent, the freedom to withdraw, and the responsibility to safeguard participants from harm become critical factors in psychological research. The legacy. Despite the debate, the Stanford Prison Experiment remains one of the most well-known and significant investigations in psychology. It revealed the influence of environmental conditions and societal roles on conduct, refuting the concept that only particular types of individuals may commit atrocities. It emphasized the possibility for misuse in any system that gives people unlimited authority over others. The findings have been used to better comprehend real-world circumstances, ranging from military prisons to police actions. They serve as a cautionary story about the risks of dehumanization and how easily ordinary people may be manipulated into committing spectacular acts of brutality. The Stanford Prison Experiment is not merely a chapter in a psychology textbook. It serves as a sharp reminder of the darkness that exists inside all of us, as well as the imperative of upholding ethical norms in order to protect human dignity. As we continue to investigate the complexities of human behavior, let us never forget the lessons acquired in that dimly illuminated basement at Stanford. The narrative of the Stanford Prison Experiment is about power, identity, and the human condition. It invites us to consider who we are and who we can become under the influence of power. It also reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there is always a light of ethical obligation to guide our actions. Thanks for watching and share your thoughts. Also, let us know what you like to see in the next video. Until then, stay happy and keep smiling.